Hi, we're Brian, Marisha, and Klaus. We just spent 2 months overlanding Mexico's Baja Peninsula. We learned a lot, so we're giving you everything we learned in one place. This is video 8 in a one-stop series of all things Baja. We've already covered route planning and maps, vehicle prep, packing, and border crossing. Today we'll cover gas, water, roads, and camping. And we'll save one last video for all the little miscellaneous things, including some of our favorite and not so favorite things.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Brian's bilingual now.
It's all rushing back to me now that we're doing the videos.
It is. Welcome back. Today we're covering all the things you need to know, we learned, we would do differently once you cross the border into Mexico, covering everything from water and fuel to camping to roads.
Let's get on it.
Let's get on it. Okay, fuel.
It's everywhere.
It kind of is.
We were really worried when we were planning on the map, you know, it labels where fuel's located in which towns, and so we were always circling it, making sure the distances, and if we need to get fuel, we're going to top off here. We always topped off at any real gas station that we saw, and so we topped off if it was anything under a quarter tank, you know, quarter used, then we would just top it off.
If we saw it, we would just top off, yes.
In retrospect, looking back, you don't necessarily need to do that, but I don't know if I do it any different. I mean, there's no reason to run out of gas when it's everywhere and you just want to push it and say, oh, I'm going to get it at the next stop, and you end up running out of gas, so that would not be wise. Prices are very similar to the United States. I want to say it was a little bit cheaper. It was during the really big spike we had in fuel prices here in the States when we were down there.
The hair cheaper.
Yeah, it's a hair cheaper. We didn't have a problem finding low sulfur diesel is what modern diesel vehicles require over the last, I think, launched in the last 10 or 15 years, diesel and DEF fluid. We did end up getting DEF fluid, which is diesel exhaust fluid for you diesel folks out there. And we did end up getting a cube of that in San Jose. And I think we probably, based on the Sprinter, I think we could have made it all the way down to San Jose, which is the southernmost tip, and all the way back to the United States without getting it. But we didn't want to risk it because you're not going to find it in the small towns.
Make sure you learn how to say in Spanish whatever fuel you need. So whether it's unleaded gasoline or low sulfur diesel. And you would be surprised that diesel and diesel, they think are completely different words. So throw a little flair into your diesel.
Diesel.
Yeah, into your diesel, and just, yeah, make sure you know how to say that. And we've also seen some snafus, some other travelers where they put the wrong fuel in their vehicle. So just pay attention. Watch what they're doing, watch what they're grabbing, know what it is when you read it, and when they say it back to you.
Everywhere you go, they pump it for you.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to watch. Pemex is everywhere, and that's all low sulfur diesel.
Yeah. And there is one section on the western, kind of the southwest side of Baja, especially if you're going to be doing some overland roads, where there aren't really gas stations at all. Like, there's a pretty hefty section where there isn't, but don't worry, there are kind of makeshift gas stations.
Unofficial, unestablished gas stations.
Around.
Which means somebody takes their truck, fills up a bunch of barrels of gasoline from Pemex, brings them back, and then when you show up, they just basically siphon it out of the barrels and they fill up your vehicle that way.
We found a place that sells diesel on the side of the road in Las Barrancas. We're buying our gas from this place and putting it in this way. That's how we roll around here.
And they actually don't charge a lot more than what Pemex.
No, it was like, what, a few cents?
Yeah, it was
extra?
crazy. I figured they'd like double the price because they went through all the trouble to do it. They did not. It was only like 10% more than what you would pay. So anyway, it's legit.
Yeah, and we also carry, for gas or diesel, we have a makeshift 5-gallon jobby that we carry on our roof, and we did have that just in case, but that was kind of emergencies only.
Yep. From a fuel standpoint, we have our stock Sprinter tank underneath. I believe it's 26 gallons. And then on the top, we put a jerry can. It's just a regular handheld yellow diesel 5-gallon square jug that we put up there and just strap it on there. So we don't have any fancy roto packs or anything along those lines. We don't want to carry that stuff around if we don't need it. We only do it in long range scenarios. And so when you're in Baja specifically, you may be on some trails that you're not going to know if it's going to be an out and back or a trail that goes all the way through. You plan on going all the way through, but you may run into a washout where you got to turn around and you can't make it through.
We're turning around. So yeah, if you see a makeshift gas station, we used one. It was fine. Next is water.
So water, we have 2 sources in the van. One is underneath. It's a 21-gallon tank for fresh water underneath. And then we have a switch right here that goes to winterize versus normal. Normal's underneath, and we flip this up to winterize. Rebel doesn't have this, but I customized this. It's kind of a part of our build out that we had done on this. And so what I did is I used 2 5-gallon jugs like this in the back. This is a little loose, obviously, but they strap in perfectly in this wheel well. It's pretty amazing. This one goes on this side. And then I ran a PEX line from the front where I just flipped that winterize switch. That PEX line connects to this, which is the original spout for the jug itself. This is the cap. I drilled a hole in it, put like a rubber grommet in there, put PEX through it, put a female on here. Here's the male. This screws into here, like so. This goes around and then screws right onto there like so. And then that will be strapped in. That gives us 10 gallons in the rear. We use this during the winter as well. So from an overlanding, if you're doing any winter traveling, keeps the water inside, keeps it from freezing.
Just gotta make sure you undo this thingy.
Yeah, it's amazing. That pump almost crushes this whole thing if you don't let the air in when it's pulling the water out. Anyway, that works fantastic.
Something we really were nervous about that we thought we would run out of all the time.
Yeah, there's more water than there is gas.
Everywhere.
Every small little town, because all the locals use the aqua purificadas, that's what they're called. They use those for their daily drinking water.
Yeah. We're doing our water fill up at the Agua Purificada.
So it is very cheap.
It's cheap.
Very available. Looking back on our trip, we would have taken a lot more showers. We always had 31 gallons on board, thinking we were going to break down and not have water. We were lucky enough not to break down, so we didn't have to worry about that.
We did film earlier when we did our packing list and our tools list, our whole water system and everything you need for filtering water and getting water in Mexico. So we'll plug that in now.
Especially when you're in Baja, you're going to want potentially a hose. When you go to the aqua purificadas, they'll have hoses and such, depending on how you fill up your tanks. We can fill it up through a hose attachment like this, or we have a gravity fill where you can actually dump the canisters that we have in the rear into the tank and fill it up that way. This is one of those expandable hoses, and it shrinks down to this to put in a tub or something like that. So highly recommend these hoses. The durability isn't that big of a deal. It's just more about how small it gets and how long it can get. This is a rubber adapter that you can put on, and this will allow you to connect to, let's say, a faucet in a bathroom, and it just screws right onto the hose right here. And then this is a flexible rubber that you can put over, and we had to use this at some of the aqua purificadas that didn't have a hose, where we could put this over a larger plastic nipple that they were pouring the water out of, so that worked. Also, when you're on the road, a lot of faucets in public areas don't have handles on them, and so this is a T that you can use as a handle to turn on and off the water in those public areas. So you may want to consider carrying one of those. And this is like a pre-filter. So if you don't know your water source and you want to do a quick pre-filter before the water goes in your vehicle, this is what I use for the pre-filter. So whenever we're out of the United States, actually I use it quite a bit even in the United States if you're getting water from a park or something like that, just to make sure that we do a quick pre-filter on it. And then we also have, last, from a drinking water standpoint, is Acuva,
water. It's kind of a filter, but it's more of a UV filter.
Purifier.
It's a purifier. Thank you, Marish. It's a water purifier through ultraviolet lights. And this is what we use for drinking. Then we'll do a UV sterilization through the drinking of the water through here.
But that is installed underneath our sink, kind of behind the drawers.
When we left the town, we would get gas and we would fill up and top off with water.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the things we would do a little bit differently next time is I don't think we would be, I mean, we're always frugal with water, but I don't think we would be as frugal with water. It's been 10 days since a real shower. For me. You don't necessarily need to be out there for 5 minutes showering, but just a quick rinse off would be a game changer, especially like right before bed. If you aren't using your water for showers or you don't have enough, if you just plan on, there's RV parks and car parks all over where you can have free showers. Bathrooms, super clean, free showers. If you happen to stay in RV park every now and then, which we would highly recommend, even every 2 to 3 weeks, staying in one for a night, you can get your laundry done most of the times. And they have showers, and it's nice to kind of do a reset.
There's a shower? What? No. Jesus, I want to take a shower just.
I told you.
And you'll come across those in the larger cities.
Yeah.
And that's when we use them because you can get a really nice spot close to downtown.
This little street that our campground is on. The center of everything. And this is where we're camping.
It's nice having that fence around there. So just the people that are staying there are the people wandering around in the facility. And they're not overly expensive. They usually have laundry, so you can knock out some laundry while you're there.
Washing machine?
$12 a night. With Wi-Fi, showers.
Washing machine?
$3.50 per load.
It's a lot. That's US prices.
Yeah, that wash machine was working hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it was working hard all day long.
Yeah, they ranged from like
And
10
showers.
to $20 for an RV park, but worth it if you're in the right spot. Camping options. Obviously, if you're traveling on the paved roads and you're staying in cities, there's campgrounds everywhere. Covered that. If you do plan on doing overlanding or dirt roads, just be prepared to do some wild camping or plan on doing wild camping. We did both. We actually wild camped way more than we camped in any little parks. This is exactly why you take the crazy roads. These are the kind of places you get to be and be 100% by yourself. So you can kind of camp anywhere. Pay attention to signs, pay attention to cattle gates. Rule of thumb, if you roll up on it and it's closed, go through it, make sure it's closed. If it's open, leave it open. It's probably open for a reason. So, but we ran into where we camped on ranchero land and we didn't know it, and a couple cowboys rolled up on their horses the next day and just checked in and made sure we were okay, and we asked, ¿Está bien? Like, cool to camp here? And they all seemed fine or pretty happy that you were camping on their land. So
yeah,
just be
that happened
respectful.
several times where the owner would come up. They're usually wondering if you're broke down or if you need help or any assistance. That's generally what they're asking about. If you're free camping, you might pull up to a beach. They'll have, if they have trash cans there or little plopas or things of that nature, there's usually some individual who'll swing by and collect about $5 to $7 from you.
Yeah.
US dollars converted over to whatever the exchange rate for pesos. And they'll walk up, and so be prepared for that. I don't know if we've mentioned that probably in other sections of our videos, but be prepared for somebody to roll up and kind of ask you for camping money, so to speak. And
yeah. Sometimes it's legit, sometimes it's not, but even the ones that felt a little maybe not legit, like that's probably not your land, they'll take your trash. I mean, they're just trying to earn a living,
Some of them you'll hang out with. So
yeah.
We hung out with one dude for like 2 hours.
We pulled in last night. This lonely rancher came up and found us.
Jesus
speaks zero English, and we used our really crappy piecemeal Spanish, and he hung out with us for
2 hours?
2 hours talking. But it worked. We made it work. If you're driving through there and you do pass a ranchero, a lot of them will sell you eggs, veggies,
goat cheese. Yeah, and they grow a lot of vegetables and things, so you might be able to get some fresh produce, and then you can help out their family and what they're doing there, and it's gonna be ultra fresh. And a lot of times it's better than some of the other stuff you're gonna get at the little markets and gas stations and stuff.
And make sure you wave to people.
Oh my God, they get so excited when you drive through.
So stoked when we'd be driving by and I would wave, and the ladies would be looking like, why are they waving? Oh, and then they're like super stoked. So yeah, say hi. Next thing you want to know about when you're crossing the border is the roads.
The roads.
Roads are, I guess, way better than they used to be. Highway 1 runs all the way down. That's kind of your major road, but I wouldn't call it a highway the whole way down. It does get pretty narrow. 5 used to be pretty gnarly, but that has recently been paved, I think in the last 10 years. I would say on the roads, just pay attention. He did most of the driving, so.
We tried to stay close to the speed limit, and majority, I would say 80% of the roads that are paved are 2-lane roads, 1 lane going each direction with no shoulder at all, where the paint is literally on the dirt, and then there's not even 6 inches of shoulder. So when the semis go by and things of that nature, if you have a wider rig, just be aware of that. It can be a little bit stressful, but that's how the roads are.
Watch out for topes, which are the speed bumps. They're not always marked.
Topes are on the way in each little town and on the way out, and they usually have a tire store that's right next to one of the topes in the center of the town.
Wear your seatbelt, because supposedly they do kind of target people that aren't wearing a seatbelt, and it's a great reason for them to pull you over. And then watch out for animals, and one of the biggest things because of the animals is we tried not to drive at night. And our whole goal was to not be driving into San Ignacio in the dark. And we are literally going to make it there right when it's dark. The sun's already set. But animals and the topes are probably one of the biggest reasons not to.
That I'll also mention, on the paved roads, there are a few toll roads that will be like 4-lane, super nice paved roads, but you're gonna need change.
Keep your change.
We tried to not be on the paved roads as much as possible. We tried to be on the gravel and off-road trails as much as possible. And those vary all over the board on what condition those are in, as you would expect.
Yeah, those varied quite a bit. And some of the dirt roads and overlanding roads are main roads for locals that live kind of remotely. So they are traveled a little bit by locals. Some are traveled by tourists and ATVs and Baja buggies.
And then some don't get a lot of use
at all.
But if it's a road that the locals are using on a regular basis, they usually scrape those. So I would say, generally speaking, they're in pretty decent shape.
Yeah.
The more rural you get and the more out there that you get, the conditions will vary as you would expect. And then also when it comes to Google Maps, the more rural you get, some of those roads aren't on, well, a lot of times Google will say there's a road there and it's just basically a trail for cattle.
What's it look like? No?
This is officially not a road, first of all.
Okay.
So Google's a great resource when you save your maps offline. It's a great resource, but do not just automatically plan. Make sure you have your paper map with you. Make sure you're paying attention to where you are, so when you do run into a situation where that road disappears, you have a general idea to look at the paper map, figure out where you're at, and know what direction to head, because it's just a spider web of roads pretty much everywhere. But with all that being said,
part of the adventure.
We managed it really, really well, and it's pretty fun to kind of figure out your way through all that.
One of the things we did almost every time we went from pavement to dirt road is air down your tires, revert back to the old tire episode. Know your car's capability, know your car's clearance.
Your recovery gear and all the things that you need to do self-recovery is really important, and we've already covered that in the past, but just as a reminder.
Yep. Another thing to look out for on the dirt roads that you're on is barbed wire.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the cautions that we ran over one pretty good, and luckily it didn't damage anything or pop a tire. And then just washouts and sand, which you'll run into periodically on the dirt roads. So some of the washouts are fine, some are not so fine.
Yeah, and some of the roads are dry riverbeds. Be aware of that when you're, just a side note really quick though, when you find a camping spot and you're wild camping, make sure you're not in a dry riverbed. for obvious reasons. So if there's a thunderstorm that comes through the mountains, which is nowhere near you, you might run into trouble in a dry riverbed that's, you know, 5-10 miles away from that.
Yep.
So just be cautious of that, and they use dry riverbeds as roads.
I think we're going to leave today's video where it is. It was starting to get really long, and we figured we would go ahead and turn what's left into a last video of miscellaneous things. Plus our camera stopped recording halfway through, and I have to redo most of it. So while Brian does his chipping project, Carlos and I taking a hike on Mount Klaus before the thunderstorm hits. You ready? Let's go. So we will catch you guys in a couple days with our last and final video of our All Things Baja series. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you next time. This is what having a 7-month-old puppy looks like. Just, I don't even know what's happening. What are you doing? You're crazy. It's the only dog I know that lays down to drink. Every time. Good job, buddy. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Adventure is calling.